This isn't a story about a corner hustler getting lucky. It's an autopsy of one of the most efficient drug operations America has ever seen. Frank Lucas didn't just sell heroin. He rewired the entire supply chain, cut the Mafia out, and turned the Vietnam War into his personal logistics network. What you're about to hear is how a man from the rural South hit a multi-million-dollar empire in plain sight, and why it was never supposed to work this well. The Apprentice. Learning the rules to break them. To understand how Frank Lucas conquered Harlem, you have to understand who taught him the game. For 15 years, Lucas was the driver and disciple of Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson, the undisputed king of Harlem crime. Bumpy wasn't just a gangster. He was a community fixture who understood that power came from two things: absolute loyalty and absolute control. When Bumpy died in 1968, he left behind a power vacuum and a changing world. The old ways of the Italian Mafia controlling the wholesale supply of heroin were becoming a bottleneck. Lucas watched as the five families took their cut at every level, thinning the product and raising the price. His genius was realizing that in a globalized economy, the middleman is a parasite. Lucas didn't want a piece of the pie, he wanted to own the bakery. His methodology was a direct pivot away from the flamboyant gangsters of the era. While others were wearing flashy clothes and drawing heat, Lucas adopted the business blueprint. He dressed in conservative suits, maintained a quiet profile, and treated his criminal enterprise like a Fortune 500 company. The Southeast Asian pivot, cutting out the middleman. By the late 1960s, the United States was bogged down in Vietnam. While the world saw a geopolitical disaster, Frank Lucas saw a logistical opportunity. He realized that the finest poppy fields in the world were in the Golden Triangle of Southeast Asia, and thousands of US servicemen were stationed right next to them. In 1969, Lucas took a gamble that would change organized crime forever. He traveled to Bangkok, Thailand, with a suitcase full of cash. He didn't want to deal with European traffickers or Corsican sailors. He went straight to the source. He tracked down the source in the Thai jungle, often identified as Luang Chen, a former general in the Chinese Nationalist Army. By buying directly from the producers, Lucas achieved three things. Purity. He acquired heroin that was 98% to 100% pure, compared to the 5% to 10% purity being sold by the Mafia. Price. He bought it for a fraction of the cost, allowing him to undercut every competitor in New York. Independence. He broke the Italian Mafia's monopoly, effectively becoming his own importer, wholesaler, and retailer. The cadaver connection, weaponizing the military. The most chilling and brilliant aspect of Lucas's blueprint was his solution to the most difficult problem in the drug trade: transportation. How do you move hundreds of kilograms of heroin past US Customs and the FBI? Lucas leveraged the one thing the government couldn't easily scrutinize: the bodies of fallen soldiers. Working with a network of crooked military personnel, Lucas allegedly organized a system where heroin was hidden inside the coffins of servicemen being shipped back to the United States from Vietnam. While there has been historical debate about whether the drugs were inside the coffins or the false bottoms of the crates carrying them, the result was the same. Lucas had created a private military-grade supply line that was virtually untouchable. He had successfully weaponized the tragedy of war to fuel his domestic empire. Blue magic, the birth of a monopoly. Once the product arrived in New York, Lucas applied a marketing strategy that would make a modern brand manager envious. He branded his heroin Blue Magic. It wasn't just a name. It was a promise of quality. By selling a product that was significantly more potent than anything else on the street and selling it at a lower price, he created an overnight monopoly. Users didn't just want heroin, they wanted Blue Magic. He operated his distribution through the Country Boys, a circle of trusted family members he brought up from North Carolina. Unlike the unpredictable loyalties of the Harlem streets, Lucas relied on blood. He believed his rural relatives were less likely to be tempted by the city's vices or flipped by the police. They were his board of directors, his enforcers, and his warehouse managers. At its peak, Blue Magic was reportedly clearing $1 million a day in sales on 116th Street. The invisibility shield, hiding in plain sight. For years, Frank Lucas was a ghost to law enforcement. His invisibility shield was built on three pillars. Professionalism. He didn't use his own product. He didn't drink to excess. He arrived at meetings on time and expected his employees to look like bank tellers. Civic branding. He followed Bumpy Johnson's lead in becoming a man of the people. He gave away thousands of turkeys at Thanksgiving and helped families with their rent. By buying the loyalty of the community, he created a human wall of silence that the police couldn't penetrate. The boring life. While other kingpins were seen in high-profile nightclubs, Lucas spent his evenings at home with his wife or at quiet dinners. He looked like a successful real estate investor, which, technically, he was, using his drug money to buy up massive amounts of legitimate property across the city and in North Carolina. The chinchilla mistake. The blueprint cracks. Every empire has a flaw, and for Frank Lucas, it was a moment of vanity. In 1971, the world's attention was on the fight of the century between Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier at Madison Square Garden. Against his own rules of staying low profile, Lucas decided he needed to assert his status. He arrived at the fight wearing a $100,000 floor-length chinchilla coat and a matching $25,000 hat. This wasn't just a fashion choice, it was a strategic disaster. Sitting in seats better than those of the Italian mob bosses and celebrities, he caught the eye of Detective Richie Roberts and the Special Investigations Unit. In one night, he went from an anonymous businessman to the primary target of a federal task force. The invisibility shield was shattered. The collapse. A war of attrition. The investigation into Frank Lucas was not a quick bust. It was a systematic dismantling of his infrastructure. Richie Roberts, an honest cop in a department rife with corruption, realized that Lucas wasn't just another dealer. He was the head of a transnational corporation. The pressure began to mount as the Vietnam War ended, closing his primary supply line. At the same time, the DEA and local authorities began flipping his lower-level distributors. The country boy's loyalty was tested by the threat of life sentences. In January 1975, the blueprint finally failed. A massive raid on his house in New Jersey uncovered the ledger of his empire. He was convicted and sentenced to 70 years in prison. However, in a final controversial twist to his operational strategy, Lucas did the unthinkable for a man raised by Bumpy Johnson. He cooperated. Realizing the game was over, Lucas provided evidence that led to the conviction of over 100 other drug-related figures, including many of the corrupt police officers who had been taking his money for years. His cooperation was so extensive that he was placed in witness protection and his sentence was eventually reduced. Frank Lucas died in 2019, but his impact on the world of organized crime remains a subject of intense study. He didn't just sell a substance. He proved that a single individual could disrupt a global supply chain if they had the audacity to go to the source. How did he do it? He ran his organization as a vertically integrated monopoly, where the product was superior, the brand was iconic, and the logistics were hidden behind the flag of the United States military. He was a man who understood that in the criminal underworld, the most dangerous weapon isn't a gun, it's a superior business model. His story serves as a chilling reminder that the most successful criminals are often those who look the least like criminals. They are the ones sitting in the front row, dressed in suits, running their empires with the cold efficiency of a CEO. What do you think was the most critical factor in Frank Lucas's rise? His control over the country boys, or his cadaver connection logistics? Let us know in the comments below. If you want to explore more deep dives into the minds of criminal masterminds, make sure to like this video, share it, and subscribe for more true crime history.